My nephew thought he could raise his hand at me and walk away like nothing happened. One moment of arrogance. One moment when he forgot who I was. And who had kept him safe his whole life. People say betrayal hurts most when it comes from strangers. They're wrong. The deepest cuts come from the ones we once held like family. The ones who eat at your table, sleep under your roof, and still find a way to disrespect the very hands that fed them. I didn't react that night. No shouting. No fight. No threats. Just a quiet breath, and a long look at the young man who had lost all sense of gratitude. He had no idea that the next morning, I would serve him something he was never expecting. Not revenge in anger. Not punishment with violence. But justice, delivered calmly, intelligently, and with the same gentleness I once used to raise him up. This is the story of the day my own nephew laid a hand on me, and the morning I taught him a lesson he would remember for the rest of his life. My name is Michael Turner, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio, in a small 2-bedroom house I've owned for almost 30 years. Life there is slow, predictable, peaceful. The way I like it. My nephew Ethan came to stay with me after he lost his job at a warehouse in Chicago. His mother, my sister Linda, asked me to take him in for a while, just until he gets back on his feet. I agreed because that's what family does. And I've always tried to be the kind of man people could rely on. Ethan was 24, tall, impatient, full of excuses, and even fuller of anger he never learned how to handle. He arrived with 2 bags, an attitude, and not much respect. At first, I tried guiding him. A bit of advice here, a bit of help there. But advice feels like insult to someone who mistakes ego for strength. Still, the house stayed peaceful, until the night everything shifted. It happened on a Thursday evening. I remember because the sun was still hanging low, painting the living room gold. I came home from my job at the hardware store and saw the mess: dirty dishes, food spilled on the floor, trash overflowing. And there was Ethan, sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone like the world owed him comfort. I didn't nag him. I didn't yell. I just said, "Ethan, you gotta clean up after yourself. I'm not your maid." He laughed. Not a normal laugh, a mocking one. "So what? You gonna kick me out? I'm family, Uncle Mike. Relax." I could have ignored it. But respect, that matters. Being family doesn't mean taking advantage, I said calmly. You should help, at least a little. He stood up, annoyed. You don't get to lecture me. You're just an old man who got lucky with a small house and a boring life. The words stung, not because they were true, but because they came from someone I once carried on my shoulders. You should watch your tone, I said. And then it happened. He shoved me. Not hard enough to injure me, but hard enough to break something more important: trust. The room went quiet. I stared at him. He stared back, his chest rising and falling like he was expecting a fight. But I wasn't going to give him one. Instead, I stepped aside, walked to my room, and closed the door behind me. My silence confused him. Silence often does. That night, I made a decision, not out of anger, but out of responsibility. If I let that moment pass, Ethan would sink deeper into the arrogance that already controlled his life. He needed a lesson. Not one taught with fists or shouting. One taught with patience. With strategy. With consequences that would hit the very foundation of his pride. And I knew exactly how to do it. At dawn, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was still, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I prepared breakfast: eggs, toast, sausages, and a fresh pot of coffee. Ethan loved big breakfasts. And today, he would get one more than he bargained for. I set the table neatly. 2 plates. 2 cups. Everything looked peaceful, like any normal morning. But inside my pocket were 2 envelopes, and they carried the real message. Ethan walked in an hour later, rubbing his eyes, looking half asleep. You cooked? He asked. Yeah, I said, smiling slightly. Sit. Eat. He sat down, surprised by how calm I was. Guilt flickered across his face for a second, but arrogance swallowed it again. We ate in silence for a while. Then I placed the first envelope in front of him.
"What's this?" he asked. "A letter," I said.
"You should read it."
He opened it.
It was a written notice, clear, simple. "Ethan, you have 7 days to move out. Starting today."
He froze. His fork fell onto the plate.
"You're kicking me out?" he said. "No," I answered softly. "You kicked yourself out the moment you raised a hand at me." He tried to argue, but I lifted a hand. "I'm not angry," I said.
"But you're a grown man."
"And a grown man should never push the person who gives him shelter."
His jaw tightened.
"You can't do this. Mom will flip."
"She'll understand," I said. "And if she doesn't, that's her choice. But this is my home. My rules."
He stood up, pacing, frustrated. "You don't get it. I don't have anywhere else to go." "Oh, you do," I replied, placing the second envelope on the table. He stared at it, then opened it. Inside was a list, 4 job openings around town, all hiring immediately. I'd spent half the night printing them out. "I talked to these places," I said. "They're expecting your call. I told them you were looking for work."
He blinked, confused.
"You did this after what happened?"
"Yes," I said.
"Because anger teaches nothing. But responsibility teaches everything."
For the first time in months, he looked small. Not weak.
Just finally aware of the consequences of his choices.
"This is your chance, Ethan. 7 days. Find a job. Find a room.
I'll help you with the deposit, but only if you take the step." He sank back into his chair, silent. I wasn't punishing him. I was guiding him, just not in the gentle way he expected. Sometimes a man must feel the ground shake beneath him before he learns how to stand on his own. And this quiet breakfast. This was the earthquake he needed. The next days were uncomfortable, tense, but necessary. Ethan walked around the house differently, slower, quieter, more thoughtful. He cleaned up after himself without being asked.
He stayed out of trouble.
And every evening, he filled out applications. On the 4th day, he came into the living room holding one of the job listings I'd given him. "They want me for an interview tomorrow," he said quietly.
"That's good," I replied.
"Show them your best." Something in his voice had shifted. The arrogance was fading. In its place was humility, fragile but real. He got the job 2 days later. A small auto parts shop on the edge of town.
Hard work, but honest work.
The kind that gives structure to a life that's been drifting too long. On the 7th day, his bags were packed.
He stood near the door, nervous.
"You're really letting me go?" he asked. "I'm not letting you go," I said gently. "I'm letting you grow." He looked down at the floor, swallowing hard. "I'm sorry for everything. I don't know why I acted like that." "You were angry at your own life," I said. "And you took it out on the closest person.
That happens.
But it can't happen again."
He nodded slowly.
I handed him an envelope, this one with $400 inside. "For your deposit on the room you found," I said. "Use it wisely." "Why are you still helping me after what I did?" "Because you're family," I said quietly. "Being family doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It means guiding someone back when they've lost their way." He wiped his eyes quickly, trying to hide it.
"Thank you, Uncle Mike."
As he walked out the door, I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved, like justice had been served without breaking anyone, including him. Quiet revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about helping them see the consequences they kept ignoring. And Ethan finally saw them.
Weeks passed.
The house returned to its peaceful rhythm. 1 plate at the dinner table. 1 coffee mug in the morning. Silence, the good kind, settled back into my life. Then one afternoon, Ethan showed up unexpectedly. This time, wearing a clean shirt, smelling like engine oil and honest work. He sat across from me, hands steady, eyes grateful. "I'm doing better," he said. "I've been saving money. My boss says I'm learning fast." I nodded, proud, quietly proud, the way an older man is when he sees someone choosing the harder, right path. He hesitated, then added, "That morning, the breakfast, the envelopes. I've been thinking about it a lot. You didn't humiliate me. You didn't hit me back. You just made me face myself. No one ever did that before."
"That was the point," I said gently.
"Real lessons don't need shouting."
He looked down, then back up.
"I'm glad you didn't give up on me."
"I didn't," I replied.
"But I wasn't going to let you destroy the respect between us either." He nodded, and for the first time since he moved in, I saw the boy he once was, the one who used to run to me at family barbecues, the one who trusted my guidance, the one life hadn't hardened yet. Before he left, he hugged me, not out of obligation, but gratitude. And I realized something important. Sometimes the people who hurt us aren't villains.
They're lost, confused,
unable to face their own failures. And when they snap, it is never truly about us, it's about the storm inside them. But storms don't calm when we shout back. They calm when we create space for someone to see the mess they've made. That breakfast, that calm justice, it wasn't revenge. It was clarity. And in giving him that clarity, I found peace too. Because revenge delivered in anger is just noise. Revenge delivered in wisdom becomes a lesson.
And sometimes,
silence is the best revenge.